Yeah. So now we come to the third noble truth, the true cessations. The true cessations are is a attainment where the afflictions have been overcome without that they can never return again. Now, with the two causes of suffering, we have the afflictions and the karma. The karma is being produced based on the afflictions. So what is more important to overcome is afflictions than karma. Because for this contaminated karma, which is the cause of samsara, this can only come into existence if there are the afflictions, especially the ignorance. So then more important than stopping uncontaminated karmic actions is to overcome the afflictions. So the main thing to be abandoned are the afflictions. And the afflictions is something which arises in our mind and which comes from certain seeds in the minds. So in a true cessation is a permanent separation from those afflictions without that they ever come back again. So it's a little bit like kicking out a terrorist from your house and closing the doors, and there is no chance anymore for the terrorist coming back. So it's a what do you say? Yeah, this is a true cessation, and a true cessation is a permanent phenomenon. This is quite interesting. Impermanent means changes moment by moment, and what is not impermanent, like permanent, does not change moment by moment. So this separation from the afflictions does not change moment by moment, and that's why it's a permanent phenomenon. And interestingly, these true cessations are attained by causes and conditions by following the true paths. At one point, based on insight and other factors, you have a realization, seeing the ultimate reality, emptiness, and then for the first time, you separate from certain afflictions once and forever, and they can never, never, ever come back. So this is a true cessation, just technically, and we might need to look a little bit more deeply into it. What is with the mind and the afflictions and the nature of the mind might be also important here at that point, and that the afflictions are not in the nature of the mind. We should also look on this. And then the connections with the afflictions and the seeds and what you attain on the path of seeing. Let's try a little bit to summarize some of these points to make it more clear. So the mind, also our consciousness, I mean, basically I speak now about the mental consciousness, has also the other consciousness have these two natures, but our mental consciousness has two natures, the conventional nature and the ultimate nature. All consciousnesses, conventionally seen, have the aspect of clarity and knowing. What does it mean? Consciousness is immaterial, but has the capacity that an object can be perceived by a consciousness, or we could also say a consciousness can take on the aspect of its perceived object. This is a little bit like a mirror, because a mirror is clear. Something in front of the mirror or side of the mirror can reflect in the mirror, but the mirror is not conscious what appears. While consciousness has the aspect of clarity and also to understand and know what appears. So, and this is unique to consciousness. A mirror has clarity, a water can have clarity, but not knowing. They cannot know. Only consciousness can know. So, and this consciousness has also an ultimate nature. And this is what we had already. It does not exist inherently like the beautifulness. Consciousness is just a name dependent on cause given to things which arise due to causes and conditions and parts coming together. And what are these parts? Former and later moments. The moment of consciousness now is away, past. Okay? And the next moment which comes is also past now. No? So you have earlier and later moments of consciousness and a present moment of consciousness. So this present moment of consciousness can only exist because there was a former. It cannot stand and exist on itself, in itself. Is it? Okay? And if the present moment would not change, there would be no future moment or no other moment of experience. You understand? So actually, all our experience is also a type of illusion. Let's say the experience of time. If you are really in the very present moment, there is no past and future which appears, no remembrance of past and future. Actually, you get lost in the presence. There is no time anymore. There is no identity anymore, because identity builds on past, present, and future moments. Time builds on past, present, and future moment. So actually, only if we take a step back towards this flow of moments, consciousness moments, there is an appearance of a flow of time, a flow of experience. But it's not real, because if you really zoom into the moment, you don't find anything real. It's just like the rainbow. You grasp into nothing, emptiness. But it's not nothing because there is something, because there are causes and conditions and parts, actually also parts are shaped by consciousness, which then form realities, then something which we call consciousness. Actually, what I did now, to give you a little bit of structure, we say all things are dependent arising, and dependent arising is a method to understand emptiness or the lack of inherent existence. And this has 3 levels. Things are produced by causes and conditions. Things are produced by parts. There is nothing which has not parts. And even the tiniest part is made from parts. And they are made from imputation. It needs a consciousness which imputes to this assemblage of parts, this is that thing. And the imputation is something which exists relatively, but as soon as you make the imputation, we make these things external, independent of our mind and outside of us. So to take the forest, just take the forest. There is no forest. I mean, 1 tree is not a forest. 2 trees is a forest, yeah, really? I mean, tree left, tree right, I'm in the forest. When tree behind you, tree in front of you, you say, I'm in the forest? Very interesting. How many trees do you have to gather to make it a forest? You cannot really say it. You cannot pinpoint. There is no definition like 100 trees make a forest. Trees appear, you have a certain point of view, and at one point they appear to be suitable to be called a forest. But there is no real forest. Forest is just a name given to the assembly of a certain amount of trees. No?
More than a wood. More than a wood. Yes, more than a forest. And an avenue. A copse. In English we have a copse and a wood. And then a forest.
Oh, yeah, echt?
Yeah.
What? You have different terms for these things?
Yes, tiny forest.
Ah, yeah.
Copse, a copse.
We just say Wald in Germany.
Wood.
Forest.
Then your
How many trees in the wood?
Forest.
Ah, okay, good. So then interesting, okay, exactly. Then, of course, the question is then how many trees you need for the wood. Yeah. Okay, good. I see you have a more nuanced understanding of assemblages of trees. Very nice. I don't think we have this in Germany so much.
More precise than
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, but I mean, you got the key idea what I was talking about. So, what was my point I wanted to make? Yeah, exactly. So the conventional and the ultimate nature of the consciousness. And actually, you can experience this to a certain degree, dependent on your concentration in the meditation. If you do a certain types of meditation, like for instance the non-meditation, and the mind just abides in itself, there comes to a point where you can see, or your Vipassana meditation, where you can see moment by moment of the consciousness changes, and there is no moment which stays there. And actually, if you zoom into those moments, you cannot really grasp the moment, and then you get to the ultimate nature of reality. There is no real independent consciousness, but there is also not nothing, because there are moments of being aware and knowing. But you can only have a feeling of time because you take a step back, or you are not so focused on the moment, and you see a later or an earlier or a later moment coming. Only then you have experience of time. If you really zoom into a moment, there is no experience of time. So, and we say this mind is naturally undefiled, naturally clear, and like water. Water can be spoiled by dirt, or like gold. Gold can be spoiled by dirt on the gold. So, but gold does not have the nature of dirt. Water does not have the nature of dirt, but water has the nature of clarity. So that's why if you have dirty water, if you put a glass with dirty water, the sediments sink after a while, because it's just an additional thing added to it. So you can take it out with the appropriate means. That's why you can filter water and you can win clear and pure water, although it was defiled. You understand? Because it has the nature to be undefiled. The same would be true with the gold. I mean, you can also gold spoil with brass and something like this. But the gold in itself is just gold and has the nature and is undefiled by other stains. And that's why even if it is stained temporarily, with the right measures, removing the brass or melting it again or something like this, doing certain types of practices, you at the end you win again pure gold, or you win again pure water. Now, and then there are other things which have a nature, and this nature cannot be changed, but it can be spoiled. Now let's take coal. Coal is in the nature of blackness. I mean, can you bleach coal and it becomes white? I don't know. I don't think so. So actually, coal has the nature of, let's say, blackness. So whatever you do, you can rub it, you can whatever. I mean, you wash it, the coal is just coal and stays black. Okay. If the nature of our mind were all these defilements, let's a little bit say the dirt of the mind, or what you say, which is the clouds on the mind. I mean, the dirt of the mind. Okay, like dirt in the water. Then actually, if our mind were like the coal, and these afflictions were like the nature of our mind, you could do nothing, like you could not remove the blackness of the coal. But they say in Buddhist philosophy or in Buddhism, it is said these kleshas, or these, the Sanskrit term is kleshas, these afflictions are adventitious. This is the English term they use. They are additionally added to the nature of the mind, but are not the mind. But of course, they can spoil the nature of the mind, like dirt can spoil the nature of the water, and dirt can spoil the nature of gold. Another third example is the sky and the clouds. The sky is naturally open, spacious, without clouds. You could say also appears to be blue, but it can be filled with clouds. And then the more clouds there are, you don't see the nature of the sky anymore. Now imagine you grow up only with clouds, you wouldn't know what the sky is. Only because sometimes we see the sky and we understand the clouds are adventitious due to cause and effect. They come into the sky, we know, but they can also go away. And we are not surprised when suddenly there is a empty or free sky, no? Because we understand these mechanisms. Now our experience tells us a little bit like the sky and cloud example, because we have so many afflictions, and the afflictions is somewhat part of our life, this excitement and all those things, that we think it's the nature of our mind, and then we think I cannot change because it's just how it is. No? So, and then we give up on ourselves. We think we are bad, we are, sinners or something like this, nothing can be done. I mean, we can a little bit improve. This is basically the idea also in Christianity, also in psychology. Yeah, something can be done about, but sorry, you can never remove it all again. It's just our nature. Very, very different to Buddhism. We say it's not our nature, that's why it can be totally removed. And now, of course, the question is what's right or what's wrong. It's very difficult to say on one hand, because it could be our nature is coal-like. It could be it's water-like. Very difficult to say. What we know for sure is that we have sometimes moments where we experience the nature of our mind, peacefulness, clarity, no clinging, openness, spaciousness, and everything is so fine. And if we apply mindfulness, we can observe from these states when we experience it, like based on cause and conditions, thoughts come in and spoil this nature. From the thoughts, imaginations arise, or sometimes imaginations are also thoughts. And from this come the emotions. And it's like the clarity of the mind gets clouded. If we are mindful of this process and we are able to stop it, what will we have? Clear mind all of the time. And this clarity of the mind is in line with our wish to be happy and free from suffering. And the distortion of the mind, these afflictions are not according to our wishes. So it's a little bit blocking us from experience what we really want. So, therefore, we need some self-confidence or faith, actually, into our Buddha nature. This is how we call it. Buddha nature is defined. Buddha nature is a very complex topic. It's defined very differently in the traditions. Let's say basically Buddha nature means in the Gelug tradition, there is the emptiness of the mind. Nothing is really essentially there, like the rainbow. And what is there is based on cause and condition. So if you change causes and conditions, then you can remove which spoils the mind, and then you abide in the ultimate nature of the mind. And if something arises, you don't get carried away by it. You see it's a dependent arising. It doesn't have an essence. It's just a rainbow. It's nice to see, but you don't have a grasping. And there is a song by Milarepa who sings about this experience of experiencing the two truth, the ultimate reality and the conventional reality. I know this song only in German, and I try to translate it into English. It's something like, maybe I say it first in German, wie wunderbar, wie all hier dir, no, I say it in English. How wonderful, how all these things appear, the phenomena of the three worlds. What is not there still appears. What a great miracle it is. Now go back to this rainbow in your garden. How wonderful it what here appears. What is not there still appears. And if you have this perspective, then you are free from clinging. You are with those appearances and you can have joy, but there is no clinging and no suffering. And you understand there is not nothing, there is something, but it's not as real. Do you understand this? Yeah. And you can play a little bit nirvana in your garden with the rainbow. Okay? So, and it's for us Westerners, this is crucial to have the self-confidence that we can change, that these afflictions are not our identity, not in the nature of our mind. And this might be the biggest blockage to the path of nirvana, to the lacking of this confidence, or to build up this confidence. The Tibetans have it far easier. They grew up with this, they just believe it, they don't question it. But we have, actually, it's right to have a doubt. I mean, do we have a coal mine nature or do we have a water nature? This is something to think about, no? And so, and those who don't have a doubt, for them it's okay, no? But if we have a doubt, we have to work through until we have certainty. It's exactly like this. And if we don't have the certainty, our path will be weak because we don't have the self-confidence. We cannot laugh about the afflictions, no? Because we identify too much, we see too much with them, we see them as too real. Actually, also the afflictions are empty of inherent nature. I mean, there is no attachment independent of former and later causes. And not one moment can be attachment. And two moments are not attachment either. It's just a force which builds up by many, many moments of consciousness. So you understand? So also we have, and then we have the meditation techniques to see the nature of the delusions, the nature of the mind. So the Mahamudra teachings, the Dzogchen teachings, emptiness teachings, Vipassana teachings, there are different methods. But all those goes through to see the ultimate reality and to let go the grip, the grasping as this is real. And then comes the big relaxations of the mind, and we see there is something, but it's not as real, and then we have the peace, and then we have achieved the nirvana. So, and it starts by seeing the emptiness for the first time. Maybe I tell you about this, it's very interesting. Or maybe I just make a brief break. I make a little bit break, just let it sink in about this nature. What is my coal mind nature? Coal-like nature is not. I have a water-like, gold-like, space-like, heaven-like nature. Maybe you can just try to think and feel how much self-confidence I have to be able to change and go beyond this cultural conditioning which thinks, yeah, we can improve a little, but I mean, really to get rid from the affliction, impossible. And Buddhism says we can. So, what do you think about my propaganda? What are your thoughts and feelings here?
I think sometimes I can very much have a coal mine. Sometimes I've not got one. And sometimes when I'm in the coal mine, I can't see the clear mind. The clear mind, I think, what was that all about? What was that coal mind, the dark mind all about?
And if your mind is clear, you can also see how wrong the other thing was, no? No? Isn't it?
When
you're in clarity, you see how wrong it was, no?
Yeah.
So this is the point actually which can give us, some confidence. The more we learn to abide in the clarity of the mind, the more we see how wrong this is, which blocks our mind. And this clarity is then a power which is more strong than the coal, than the dirt or the darkness. Let's say the darkness. Dirt does not sound so nice. Let's say the darkness. So, and also the clarity is in the nature, or is in line with our wishes. And this darkness is not in line with our wishes. So there are things which, let's say cold and heat. Cold and heat, there are forces. Cold can be overcome by heat. Always. Cold cannot overcome heat. Think about it. I mean, maybe we need some scientific research, but usually you have the coldest place. If it is possible to cause heat there, this heat overcomes the cold. So this is something to be understood. This clarity has more power than the darkness. And not only this, because this clarity goes along with knowing. We have a basis which knows this darkness is just not what is good for me, is based in cause and condition, and we can use this clarity and the knowing, this force, to apply counter means which overcome this darkness: non-attachment, non-ignorance, non-hate, joyous effort instead of laziness, and so on. And wisdom, this is now the key thing, wisdom which overcomes the ignorance. So this is a reasoning actually why we can overcome the problem. Ignorance, I think I said it already this morning, Ignorance is a confusion about reality. It's a virtual reality, like the beauty of the watch, something like this, no? Or the beauty of the eyes, or the eyeball, or the iris. So, this ignorance is a confusion which doesn't have a stable basis in reality. So it's shakeable. It's not so strong. But seeing the reality that this beautiful, or the beautifulness or whatever is only a dependent arising and does not exist in and of itself and by itself, this wisdom is based in reality and is therefore has a ground, has a stable basis. And if we collect more and more wisdom, we connect more and more with the reality, and this together becomes a force to overcome the ignorance and the illusion caused by the ignorance. So ignorance is weak, wisdom is strong. And wisdom is stronger because based in reality than the ignorance not based in reality. That's why if we follow the true paths, which is the cultivation of wisdom included, then we can overcome the ignorance, and if we come over the ignorance, we overcome the afflictions. We overcome the afflictions, we overcome samsara, and we overcome the cycle of birth, and then we attain nirvana, and we have ultimate peace. And we have a total separation, a true cessation of all afflictions, and they can never ever come back again. And this is what the Buddha achieved. And this is what the Buddha said he achieved. And the students around the Buddha lived with him all of the time. And their experience convinced them that he achieved it because there was no grasping, no fear. He was always at ease. There are even sutras who describe how the Buddha walked. He must have walked amazingly because of his inner freedom. Sometimes only his walking attracted students. People understood something different. Some people can experience the same sometimes with Mingyur Rinpoche or contemporary masters. I mean, also Rinko Tugo is quite, for me, really quite beyond with his ease and radiating love and openness. Wow, so many qualities of being with himself happy. So you have to check a little bit it's important because if you don't have the self-esteem, the fate in our nature, or the fate that this is not our nature, it will be tricky to build up the energy, the joyous effort to do something about it. We might doubt our path. We allow our afflictions to discourage us. But we need the courage with that. Your afflictions, here. I'm stronger than you. You seem to be strong, but actually you are weak. You don't have arms, you don't have feet. You only make terror because I allowed you to be for a long time in my mind. But now I woke up. I tell you. Sorry.
Afflictions are like monsters.
Yeah, they are like monsters.
Demons
Yeah.
aren't real,
Yeah.
but your mind is...
Yes. They are demons, they are not real, but they perform their functions, and it's good to face them, not to have too much amnosity. Actually, you can even face those demons and say, oh, you're attachment demon, how do you look like, what do you want? So speak with them, deal with them with a little bit distance, and then actually, instead of looking in a Dharma book or going to any explanation or so, you learn from observing your own afflictions. You know what they do with you, and then actually they start to teach you. And by this understanding, you overcome them. So, the afflictions kill themselves when you make them your teacher. Very skillful. Okay?
I think it might very limited experience. Like if you meditate, which is suggested by Buddha as part of the fourth noble truth. So if we take an affliction like anger and you're meditating, say for some time, you can sometimes come to see, it changes, so it's not always the same, or it might get bigger and then go and so on. Yeah, or even just like a grasping thought or whatever. So, in experience, if we were our afflictions, if we were anger or grasping, then when we sit to observe ourselves, it would be like that all of the time, wouldn't it? But it isn't. So, it's a very simple experience, but it's actually very profound to see that, you know, these things come and go, but here I am somehow here. So we're not the afflictions, they're adventitious, based, like Tenzin was saying. And I think we can all have that experience. We can just reflect, like how many thoughts we had from waking up to now, they've come and gone, you know, some good ones, some bad ones, some afflicted ones or whatever. But if that was our nature, it would be like one monotone, angry all the time, forever. But it's not. So I think just that makes us realise, that's not the true nature.
I remember a psychologist telling me when I was about 25, 26, you will never change your personality. You have a short fuse. You have a short fuse. You know what I said to her? I thought, yeah, really? Yeah.
Okay, we don't do it to persons, but to our...
Because you think,
what Cesare said is a very important point I missed to include in the explanation. There are two types of cessations. There are the analytical cessations and the non-analytical cessations. The analytical cessations are those attained by meditating on emptiness or emptinesses, because emptiness always needs an object. So the analytical meditations are the cultivating of wisdom, on the cultivation of wisdom with respect to the ultimate reality, where you cultivate insight into the ultimate nature of thing, which is called emptiness. This brings finally the analytical cessation, which is the separation from the afflictions in a way that they never come back again. This is one point I said. But there are the non-analytical cessations. This is when the conditions are not complete, the afflictions don't arise. This is what you told. So, for instance, if you don't have a certain taste in mind, an attachment towards a certain taste doesn't arise. And then you have a peace of mind which is based on a non-analytical cessation. The conditions for affliction to arise are not complete. So, for instance, to affliction to arise, you need an object. So if you don't have an object, you don't have an affliction. This is, by the way, also important if you want to learn how to deal with afflictions, but this is more complex. There are 6 causes for afflictions to arise. 3 must be there altogether, otherwise no afflictions, and 3 causes which support the arising of afflictions. So, and one of it is the object. There is an object. So we have naturally sometimes non-analytical cessations where there is no affliction in our mind, no hate, no attachment. For instance, when we are in the nature, we have this peace of mind, or we do a meditation. And you could see, as you said, this is actually the real nature of mind, this state. But still, you could have doubts. If you don't have doubts, perfectly fine. Otherwise, you must do some more reasoning until you are convinced it's not your nature. So it depends also a little bit on your person, how much you have, how deep you have to go, or how many reasons you need.
I think doubt is a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing.
Yeah.
And at least for me and the meditation path so far, I mean, the instructions that I've received 10 years ago are more or less the same ones you receive all the time. You know, it's like in different ways, and different teachers say things in different ways. And it's just like, the journey is just overcoming the doubt and having the confidence that this is it.
Yeah.
You know, this is the nature of mind, this is beingness, this is how to relax and so on and so forth. And just learning to trust in that process and not trying to find the solution everywhere else. You know, so yeah, I guess I would summarize, for me, it's like a lot of the meditation journey is just overcoming doubt and gaining confidence in that, you know.
And integrating it into everyday life is a difficult thing for me, because it's all well and good when you're doing it like this, but when it's everyday life.
And that's the path.
That's the
path, yeah. Yeah. So do we cover 4 already?
No.
Oh.
I just wanted to check how you are and if someone wants to say something. Also a little bit giving it space to sink in. Mm-hmm.
The analogy with water and dirt, some of you must have seen, there is a wonderful video clip called Karma, Bond to Past and Future. No one's seen it. You have to watch it. It is just mesmeric.
Karma.
Bond to the past and future.
Okay.
It was made 7 years ago by it's part of the Theravada tradition. It was filmed in Thailand. But you have to watch it because it is quite unique.
About what is it?
It's about karma, which we all have, and about breaking the bonds that bind us to falling prey to things like anger and greed and ignorance, and how we can overcome them.
Okay.
And just as the Buddha made lots of analogies, so this short
On YouTube. Got it.
Oh yeah, can you?
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Put it on the group. Yeah.
The expectation
Okay.
now, they'll be grasping onto that. That's going to be really good.
Thank you.
Well, we might have to
Thank you.
Because I've played it to adults and children, and especially to young children. They just don't say anything, they're just absolutely spellbound.
Oh,
Adults too are, because it's unique, it really is unique.
Thank you.
And it's all about, towards the end there is this analogy with a huge urn and one drop of dirty water is at the bottom, which is our karma, but you can dilute it. And the more good things you do, the more the water that's at the bottom, which is dirty, becomes diluted. But I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Please send it also to me.
Yeah.
So good. So true cessation. Maybe one point about these afflictions. I wanted to say something about this. If we attain the path of seeing, which means basically, for the first time, the mental consciousness realizes directly the ultimate nature of reality. And directly means our mental consciousness can have conceptual states and non-conceptual states. Conceptual states is you have a generic image which represents a reality but is not reality. Like for instance, if we sit now here and think about our house, a concept of our house comes into our mind, but it's not the house. It's a difference than being in front of the house and seeing it directly. This is the difference. So you have a generic image which is between you and the reality, you understand? And we work a lot with generic images. Most of the things we had today are generic images about suffering, truth, and so on. All those thought processes are generic images. And even our understanding is also a generic image. But through meditation, we should come to a point where a non-conceptual mental consciousness directly sees and gets access to this ultimate reality, the lack of inherent existence or emptiness. And once this point is achieved, then all the intellectually acquired, it is called the acquired afflictions, and their seeds are gone forever and they can never arise again. So there are different types of afflictions: acquired afflictions, innate afflictions, seeds of afflictions, latencies of afflictions. Maybe we don't go too much into it, but just to at least mention the complexity. And it's not to empower you, but just to give you, there are more things to be said, but we don't have the time to go so much into details. Basically, let's look a little bit into these acquired afflictions. When an animal or a child has a natural tendency towards anger and attachment. You agree with it? Okay. So, but the child does not necessarily have a dislike for another child with another color. No? because there is not yet this discrimination, this is another color, because maybe the child never saw the own color of the skin, or it doesn't mind about it, or there is no concept, anything like this. So it will be difficult for this child at that age to collect an affliction, which an aversion, for instance, or anger or hate based on the skin of the color. But later this can come in. Or like the Germans did, all the problems from the Germans come from the Jews, no? So, and then you have this image of the enemy. And the child wouldn't think about anti-Semitism, or it's just not in there. So, and these afflictions develop through analytical processes according to the realm where we live. And animals don't have this. Animals are not anti-Semitic. Animals are not racists, no? But human beings can be. So, and those afflictions, this hate, this anger, this attachment, and so on, also the pride, because you can build also a pride based on race, no? These are acquired afflictions, acquired through wrong analytical processes. And they arise also because we have a seed that they arise. So, and if you have entered the path of seeing, those afflictions you are separated from. You cannot be a racist anymore. It's just impossible. You don't have the seed even that this ever can arise again. That's why it's a total separation. So what this realization of emptiness does, it destroys the seed for the affliction to arise. Now, what is meant with a seed? Imagine a flower. I mean, everything has a cause. A flower has a cause, a tree has a cause, and usually they come from seeds. So, and those afflictions also have a cause. This is a seed in our mind, or the potential that the affliction can arise. So there are three causes which must come together that affliction arise. You must have the seed, you must have an object, and you must have, this is called improper mental attention. If those three come together, you have an affliction. If one cause is missing, you don't have an affliction. Now, if you are angry, you need an object to be angry, and you need a seed. And you need a certain type of improper mental attention to discriminate the situation that you get angry. So, and usually we do, yeah, this is really because blah, 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 blah. This is improper mental attention. So, now what the realization of emptiness does, it destroys the seed. And there is no other mean to destroy the seed. And if there is no seed, like if the seed is burned, there is no flower anymore. There is no result. This is actually what we do. But these are only images for the mental processes, or you could say, yeah, images or vision, what is the right term? Images, to understand this process. So we have these seeds, metaphors. So we have these seeds in the mind. Of course, they are immaterial, and they are something like a potential that it can arise at any time if there is the object in the improper mental attention. So, and we can learn on the Dharma path to work with improper mental attention and with the object. This is actually what we do with our meditations, thinking and analysis. But what we really have to do, we have to destroy the seed. If the seed is destroyed, everything is fixed. It's gone. Totally gone. Gone forever. And this is a true cessation. This is a separation of afflictions in a way that it never can come again. And then once you have achieved this, a lot of load of suffering has gone from you. And from then you are on the path of meditation, and you continue until you achieve the path of no more learning, where you attain one of the three types of awakening according to your path which you choose, Mahayana path or whatever path, what type of awakening you wanted to achieve. So then gradually, after having seen for the first time the emptiness directly, from one point, at that point you are free of all acquired afflictions and their seeds, and all the problems arising from them. And then, on the path of seeing, you continue to meditate on the ultimate nature of reality, on emptiness, to overcome the innate afflictions and their seeds. So the innate hate, the innate hate is already gone at that point, but the innate attachment and the innate ignorance and so on. So, and then there are different layers, and you achieve step by step through continuous meditation more separations until you come to the point where you have a total separations from all the afflictions and their seeds, and this is the state of nirvana. And then there is only one experience, peace. Peace. Because all the afflictions have only one function, to destroy the peace. And why we can do this? Because the mind has the nature of knowing and clarity. We can know, understand, and have clarity about these processes. And we can build an intention to achieve it. And this is actually why these 4 Noble Truths are being taught, to encourage us to develop a motivation to achieve nirvana. But we don't want to achieve in nirvana when this word appears so shiny. What we then want to do is to dive into samsara, consume samsara, swim in samsara, get lost in samsara. And samsara is not outside, it's our own continuum. Okay, so far okay? This was a little bit differentiation. Could you follow, or was it too complicated? It was okay? Good. Now, last point, the true paths. Yeah. Hopefully now, after all those analysis or meditations, you are at the point...
We're meant to finish at 5 o'clock.
What time is it?
5 o'clock.
It's 5. Okay, yeah, we finish now.
No, but I mean...
No.
We could go a bit longer.
No, we just finished now. So actually, why did I take so much time about it? Because we are lost in samsara. We are prey of this shininess of samsara, including myself. I'm included here. And then if we don't understand these points, there is no motivation to do something about it. The only motivation we have to make samsara a little bit more shiny, isn't it? So we can go to a meditation course, to a mindfulness course, to make samsara a little bit more glossy and shiny and better functioning. But sorry, this is totally superficial. Forget, it's illusion. You can do it, nothing against, but then do it deliberately. Say, okay, I know about nirvana, don't want to achieve it, it's okay. I want my samsara a little bit more shiny, and then use Dharma practice for this. But Dharma, it's okay, it's not wrong, nothing wrong. But Dharma is more profound. So, and now if you understood this point, you might think, okay, I understand I can never achieve the happiness I was looking for as long as I stay in samsara and these inner terrorists abide in my mind. And if I want to overcome these terrorists, I must follow a path that helps me to overcome them. And which is this path? This is the Eightfold Noble Path. This is the truth of the path. No? What is the truth of path? Yes, they call it proof of path. I forgot already this terminology. Truth of suffering, truth of origin, truth of cessation, and truth of path. Yes.
Yeah, the way out.
So the way out. Yeah. So and the truth of suffering has to be understood. The truth of origin has to be abandoned. The truth of cessation has to be attained. And how do we attain it? By realizing the true paths which lead up to the attainment of nirvana. So that's why then the Buddha explains at the end why we meditate. You understand? But in the West, people come to meditate without maybe really understanding why they meditate. Sorry to say it. So, of course, they understand this gives me peace and so on. But there is more about this type of meditation. So then we can follow the Eightfold Noble Path, and then we achieve the nirvana. And the Eightfold Noble Path, to summarize it, is condensed into 3 higher trainings: training in ethic, training in concentration, and training in wisdom. And the real path to nirvana is only wisdom, but you need ethics and concentration to achieve this. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is I don't have to say more about this because all the Buddhist teachings are about how do you cultivate an inner path. But the key point is to have a vision what you want to attain with the path. And then using all the information to cultivate the path of ethic, the path of concentration, and the path of wisdom in yourself. And if you do it and continue, you will one day achieve first this true cessation based on the path of seeing, and later, if you continue, diligent, skillful, you will attain nirvana, a total separation from all those afflictions. This is the vision. And this is possible. The Buddha has attained it, other masters have attained it, Ajahn Chah has attained it, Ajahn Mun has attained it, you can attain it, I can attain it. Why do we don't attain it? Why didn't I attain it? Too lazy. Why I'm too lazy? I'm still fall prey to the shininess of samsara. Hello, welcome in the club. That's it. I have nothing to say more.